Hello there, did you miss me? What do you mean no? Anyway, I'm Daniel, OnionGrave64 or Civil Onion, and welcome back to Pokemon of the Week. And this week is a Pokemon that unfortunately makes everything on the main page look out of kilter, Aerodactyl 142 in the Pokédex, and is currently, believe it or not, in the RU tier. It's rock and flying type, and as a result, we have quite a unique set of resistances and weaknesses. There's Archeops, obviously now as a rock flying as well, but for a very long time Aerodactyl was out on its own. It has resistances to bug, fire, flying, normal and poison, while at the same time being weak to electric, ice, rock, steel and water. There are no quad resistances or quad weaknesses. It is however immune to ground because it's a part flying type Pokemon, but you probably knew that already. It has 3 abilities, and most sets, to be honest, you'll see Rock Head on. However, Rock Head just removes recoil effects for you. Pressure is a very useful ability as well. Rather than use 1 PP when the opponent attacks you, it can also be 2 when you've got pressure, so they use their PP up twice as quickly in effect. And Unnerve prevents them from using berries when you're out, which isn't quite as often seen, but nevertheless it's not too bad. The base stat wise, you can probably see already that it's very good at one thing, and that is being quick. Aerodactyl has always had a reputation for leading because it is so quick and it works as a suicide lead. I'll discuss that later. Its attack of 105 is also pretty good, to say the least. However, it all kind of falls apart from there. Base 80 HP is okay, and its special defense of 75, it's not too bad either, but unfortunately, its defense and special attack are worse, still at 65 and 60 respectively. Having a base 60 special attack means using any special move really isn't that recommended, albeit you do still see it from time to time. But nevertheless, you may be able to tell that Aerodactyl does physical hitting quite quickly and then dies quite quickly. Let's discuss it in the first of 3 sets, and this is putting the choice band on it and is by far and away the most common Aerodactyl set now it's in RU. Quickly to explain why it's in RU, it's a fast Pokemon that doesn't have a momentum move, it doesn't learn U-turn rather bizarrely. Rock flying is actually quite a good typing, and as a result it would normally be higher up, and in the past Aerodactyl has been in the overused tier. However, it's just not quite the same as it used to be. It struggled in the adapt to 5th generation, but nevertheless, if this is its best set. With a jolly nature and 176 speed EVs, very precise number to make sure you outspeed unboosted Sceptile. And in RU, that is the 3rd fastest Pokemon, you're the 2nd fastest. And then don't bother worrying about the fastest because you can't outspeed that if it has any real investment whatsoever. But nevertheless, Stone Edge is a very nice move. You have stab on it, it's got a high critical hit percentage, and with a base power of 100, obviously 150 when you throw same type attack bonus in there, you hit stuff incredibly hard. Especially when you maximise your attack, 252 EVs being the maximum. Now, the cover moves I'll go through quickly as well. Earthquake is obvious. Ground and rock go together very, very well as a type combination. You don't get stab on Earthquake, but it is always 100% accurate, so that's something to bear in mind. Furthermore, if you do decide to lock yourself into Earthquake, a lot of Pokemon are immune to Earthquake. Anything that flies, anything that has Levitate, anything that has an ability that makes it, or a move like Magnet Rise where you become immune to ground type moves temporarily. There are a lot of things out there that don't get hit by Earthquake, so being locked into it is quite a dangerous thing. Which is why you have Aqua Tail and Double Edge as your cover moves. You take no damage from Double Edge in recoil because you have Rock Head as your ability. And it's got base 120 power. Yes, it's normal type, so you can't hit anything super effectively, but it's very good on a choice band set because you don't require a lot of prediction. And unlike Stone Edge, it doesn't miss. Stone Edge, especially on the simulators, has a bit of a reputation for being that move that misses the most, and especially at key moments. So Double Edge is a much safer option. Aqua Tail is kind of a halfway house between Stone Edge and Double Edge. It only has base power of 90, and it has accuracy of 90. But water's a very nice type for attacking, especially on a Pokemon like this, so that's why it's there. as I put in the note, there's no real variety in this set, because for a Pokemon that looks the way it does and has a typing that it does, it's got an absolutely awful move pool, and I can't get my head around why that was allowed to happen. It learns a lot of moves on the special spectrum, or enough I should say, but you can't really use them on any set. It's a bit of a shame. 80 HP EVs, by the way, like I said, because the speed is 176, and you might as well throw the rest in HP because you're not very bulky. But when we go to the second set, this is a set that, I'll be honest, isn't quite in its prime. If you go back a generation to the 4th generation, this was a staple, as I put in the first note there. It was all over the place, and there was one main reason for this. It was, I would argue, the best suicide lead in Pokemon at that point in time. And sure, you don't see it that much anymore, but it still has a very important role to play if you want to try and use it in a higher tier. And the key thing about Aerodactyl now, in the 5th generation, is that I don't think anybody plans their team around what could Aerodactyl do, because obviously nobody thinks about it in an OU mind anymore. As a consequence, it can actually be used rather effectively. Taunt got nerfed, unfortunately, in the 5th generation. However, the advantage of Taunt on a Pokemon this fast is you'll get it down first, which will stop Pokemon at the start of the game trying to set up their own entry hazards, or in return trying to taunt you so you can't set up yours. So while you've taunted your opponent, you can set your own Stealth Rock up and then either hit stuff as hard as you can or switch out before your Focus Sash gets broken, either or. Focus Sash is a real key to this set working. So assuming you're on 100% of your HP, even if a damage calculator will work out that the attack against you is going to do 3,000 points of damage, you won't die because that Focus Sash will save you on 1 hit point. However, you have to be careful because it still means next turn you'll still be incredibly susceptible to Pursuit, to priority moves. Obviously you'll have issues switching back in again, especially to Stealth Rock. Spikes and Toxic Spikes actually don't affect you because you're part flying, so that's not quite as bad as you would first think. But obviously on 1 HP you can't switch in again if Stealth Rock's in play and you don't have a Rapid Spinner. Do try and plan to have a Rapid Spinner, by the way. When you're using Aerodactyl up to OU, there are quite a lot of spinning options. When you play it in RU, not many of the Rapid Spinners in that tier really go very well with Aerodactyl type-wise. The best is probably Kabutops, and unfortunately, as you may have worked out, both of those Pokemon are weak to Electric, so it's still not a particularly good synergy there. However, that being said, you still get the Ground and Rock type combination. You still hit very hard. Notice in the EVs, normally I would say on a set like this, maximise your attacking stat, your speed, and then throw the rest in HP. Don't do that for this set, because if you put your 4 in HP, you'll have an even HP stat. And by having an odd one, you'll make sure that you can switch into entry hazards the maximum number of times, because Aerodactyl unfortunately is weak to Stealth Rock because it's part flying, and therefore switching in will constantly hurt you. Now, like I said, this was a very common set. Not the case anymore, so you can get a bit of a surprise factor on people, but do bear in mind that Team Preview really does ruin any surprise this set could have. So people will probably know if you send Aerodactyl out first exactly which 4 moves you have. So don't try and con or BS people, because they will know your set as well as you do. So finally, we have a set that... There are a lot of gimmick sets for Aerodactyl. There are sets that involve setting up the weather as a kind of form of suicide lead. There's all sorts of things. There's a set that I used to watch on Pokemon videos on YouTube. Can't remember who by. It was called Erosion, and it was all about trying to stall with Aerodactyl because obviously Sandstorm boosts its special defense and it gets access to Roost, etc, etc. However, the best of the gimmicks in my opinion is the Home Claws version, because Stone Edge, as I said, is notoriously inaccurate, or let's put it this way, the 80% accuracy that it's meant to hit is usually 80% chance that it will miss, or that's how people claim anyway. Aqua Tail is also a move that is not 100% accurate, so 1 Home Claws can really help your accuracy and bolster up your reliability with this. And Aerodactyl does cause quite a few switches, not as many as you would hope, because Even attacks that are resisted by Aerodactyl from a strong physical attack will still do probably about half your health. So you do have to be very careful. As a consequence, you can, generally speaking, pick Life Orb for this set because you're not going to last very long. Me being me, and you know me by now, I love an expert belt, so that's obviously a viable option too. However, as I said, Life Orb probably the better one for this set. When we go to our EVs, it looks a bit weird. It's a similar version, effectively, of what we had from set 1. However, instead of having 80 EVs in HP, there are 72. Reason being, that gives you 319 HP, and that means Life Orb does 1 point less of damage. So, in my opinion, that's a good switch off. It does mean that you're going to have to memorise quite a weird distribution of EVs, but you're not thick because you're watching a guide about Pokemon. Come on now. So, I've got this final thing to say again. The special episode is going to be episode 40, and for the love of all things holy, send me a set. I'm not going to read it all out for you again because I've said it 6 or 7 times now, but I will leave you on this slide. Please have a look. Peace out and leave comments.